From the JAMA Network, this is the JAMA Medical News Podcast, discussing timely topics in clinical medicine, biomedical sciences, public health, and health policy, featured in the medical news section of JAMA.
On today's show, we're discussing new research on the mechanisms behind COVID-19 mRNA vaccine-associated myocarditis. I'm Kate Schweitzer, Associate Managing Editor of JAMA Medical News. News Director Jennifer Abbasi is here to talk about her story. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Kate.
Before we jump into the research, can you tell us a little bit about this condition?
Sure, Kate. So myocarditis in general, as our listeners will know, is inflammation of the heart muscle. It's most often associated with infection. But it's now known that myocarditis can occur after vaccination with a COVID-19 mRNA vaccine. This adverse effect is very rare. According to the authors of this study, for every million doses of COVID-19 mRNA vaccine that are administered, about 30 people will develop myocarditis after the first, or more commonly, the second dose. Now, it's more common in males for reasons that aren't fully understood, particularly those under age 30, but it's still rare in them. In this population, it's about 60 cases per million doses. Although the condition usually resolves with time, it can on occasion be more serious. And this new study caught my eye because it's a step toward understanding this rare adverse effect that is of concern to the public.
Okay, so tell us about this new study.
I spoke with the senior author, Dr. Joseph Wu, who is director of the Stanford Cardiovascular Institute. His team published their research in December in Science Translational Medicine. He told me he decided to study this because so many of his patients with cardiac conditions were asking him whether the COVID vaccine was safe. So his team looked at cytokines. These are proteins produced in the body that affect the immune system and are elevated in blood samples of patients with this vaccine-associated myocarditis. They reanalyzed human plasma from 2 studies and narrowed their focus to 2 cytokines in particular. They then conducted a series of preclinical experiments that demonstrated that these cytokines adversely affected myocytes, or heart muscle cells, and that neutralizing these cytokines reduced vaccine-induced cardiac injury.
And there was a second part to this study where the researchers tested a plant compound called genestin. Tell us about this.
Right, so genestin is a weak phytoestrogen, or a plant estrogen. The idea here was that estrogen, a female hormone, is known to have cardioprotective effects, and perhaps it has some influence on why more males than females appear to experience this adverse effect of vaccination. Of course, it wouldn't be practical to give people estrogen to mitigate a rare event, so the researchers wanted to test this plant compound. They found that giving young male mice oral genestin a week before the second shot of the vaccine blunted the surge of these 2 cytokines and the resulting myocardial injury without reducing titers of vaccine-induced antibodies.
So what's next for this research?
Well, one expert I spoke with said the authors showed convincing evidence that these particular cytokines are at least partially involved in this phenomenon. A next step would be human studies that systematically characterize cytokines around the time of vaccination and assess whether genestin can calm these inflammatory responses and protect against vaccine-associated myocarditis without immunological trade-offs. Dr. Wu cautioned that the incidence of myocarditis after vaccination is too low to widely recommend genestin for prevention, so they're not advocating just giving genestin to everybody. But he does think that the plant compound could have broad applications for inflammatory conditions if its potency can be increased, and that's something his lab is working on. He also said vaccine manufacturers could test next-generation vaccines using the platforms his lab used to find the safest formulations. But for now, he emphasized that his study should not be interpreted to mean that COVID-19 vaccination is unsafe, because as he said, it very, very rarely causes myocarditis.
Thanks, Jen. If you'd like to learn more, we'll include a link to Jen's story in the show description. This week, we also published a story I wrote about clues to why heart attacks tend to be more serious in the daytime. You can find that and all of our stories at jamamedicalnews.com. Thanks to Jen Abbasi for joining me. I'm Kate Schweitzer. This episode was produced by Daniel Musisi at the JAMA Network. To follow this and other JAMA Network podcasts, please visit us online at jamanetworkaudio.com. Thanks for listening, and join us again next week.
This content is protected by copyright by the American Medical Association with all rights reserved, including those for text and data mining, AI training, and similar technologies.